private then.
Frustrated by his continued defiance, John Wayne threw prisoner 416 into the hole. After punishing the other prisoners for his disobedience, John Wayne encouraged them to vent their anger at 416 directly.
Thank you, 416.
Okay, 209.
I'll try that myself. Thank you, 416.
We would use our nightsticks to bang on the door, and we would kick the door so hard that, it must have, shaken him very seriously inside, scared the life out of him.
He yelled at me and threatened me and actually sort of smashed a sausage into my face to try to get me to open up. But I didn't have any intention of eating until I was out.
416 should have been at some level a hero, because he's willing to oppose the authority of the system. In fact, the prisoners accept the guard's definition of him as a troublemaker.
I remember some of them saying, would you eat, goddammit? We're sick and tired of this. And, that was proof that, there was no solidarity, there was no support between the prisoners.
While 416 was still in the hole, John Wayne made a final attempt to break him by giving his fellow prisoners a choice. They could vote to release him by making a small sacrifice.
You can give me the blankets and sleep on the bare mattress, or you can keep your blankets and 416 will stay in another day. Now what will it be?
I'll keep my blankets.
What will it be over here?
Keep my blankets.
How about 546?
I'll give you my blankets, Mr. Correctional Officer.
You don't want a blanket. We got 3 in favor of keeping the blanket.
We got 3, guess 1. Keep your blankets, 416, you're going to be in there for a while. So just get used to it.
The study showed that power corrupts, and how difficult it is for people who are the victims of abuse to stand up and defend themselves. Why doesn't anybody who is being abused by a spouse or something like that just say, stop it? And we realize now that that's not as easy as it sounds.
By the end of the 5th day, 4 prisoners had broken down and been released. 416 was on the 2nd day of his hunger strike, and the experiment still had another 9 days to run. At this point, a fellow psychologist visited Zimbardo's basement prison and would witness the brutality of the experiment firsthand.
The guards had lined up the prisoners to go to the toilet, had bags over their head, chains on their feet, and were marching by. And I looked up and I saw this circus, this parade. And I said, hey, Chris, look at that.
I looked up and I just began to feel sick to my stomach. I had this just chilling, sickening feeling of watching this. And I just, I just turned away. And I just let loose in this emotional tirade. I just lost it. I was angry, scared. I was in tears.
And I'm furious. I'm saying, you're supposed to, we had a big argument. You're supposed to be a psychologist. This is this interesting dynamic behavior in such a few days. I'm going through this whole thing, the power of the situation. She says, no, it's that young boys are suffering and you are responsible. You're letting it happen. I said, oh my God, of course you're right.
The next day, Zimbardo ended the experiment. Studies like his stimulated heated debate about the ethics of using human subjects.
Clearly, young men suffered, verbally, physically. Prisoners felt shame in their role, guards felt guilt. So in that sense, it's unethical. That is, nobody has the right, the power, the privilege to do that to other people.
In the wake of experiments like Zimbardo's and Milgram's, ethical guidelines changed, introducing greater safeguards to protect participants. In the Stanford experiment, Zimbardo might have spared his volunteers distress had he not taken on a dual role in the study.
If I was going to be the prison superintendent, I should have had a colleague who was overseeing the experiment, who was in a position to stop it at any point, or I should have been the principal investigator and get somebody who was going to be the prison superintendent. I realized that was a big mistake, to play both those roles and be shifting back and forth.
After the experiment, Zimbardo brought all the participants together to talk about their experiences. John Wayne would now come face to face with the hunger striker he had tormented.
I was a little worried. I said, oh my God, he's really going to come down on me hard now, now that we're on equal footing.
It harms me.
How did it harm you? How does it harm you? Just to think about it, you mean that people can be like that?
Yeah. It let me in on some knowledge that I've never experienced firsthand. Because I know what you can turn into. I know what you're willing to do.
When I look back on it now, I behaved appallingly. It was just horrid to look at. I think I tried to explain to him at the time that, what you experienced and what you hated so much was a role that I was playing, but that's not me at all.
He was trying to dissociate himself from what he had done. That did make me angry. Everyone was acting out a part and playing a role. Prisoners, guards, staff, everyone was acting out a part. It's when you start contributing to the script, that's you, and thus it's something you should take responsibility for.
I didn't see where it was really harmful. It was degrading, and that was part of my particular little experiment to see how I could...
Your particular little experiment.
Yes,
Why don't you tell me about that?
I was running little experiments of my own.
Tell me about your little experiment.
Okay.
I'm curious.
I wanted to see just what kind of verbal abuse that people can take before they start objecting, before they start flashing back.
If I have any regret right now, it's that, I made that decision, because it would have been interesting to see what would have happened had I not decided to force things. It could be that I only accelerated them, that the same things would have happened, but we'll never know.
If the extreme nature of Dave Eshelman's behavior tested the prisoners, it also presented the other guards with a choice, to intervene or not.
It surprised me that no one said anything to stop me. They just accepted what I said, and no one questioned my authority at all. And it really shocked me. Why didn't people, when I started to abuse people so much, I started to get so profane that, and still people didn't say anything.
There were a few guards who hated to see the prisoners suffer. They never did anything which would be demeaning of the prisoners. The interesting thing is, none of the good guards ever intervened in the behavior of the guards who gradually became more and more sadistic over time. We like to think there is this core of human nature that good people can't do bad things, and that good people will dominate over bad situations. In fact, one way to look at the Stanford prison study is that we put good people in an evil place, and we saw who won. Well, the sad message is, in this case, the evil place won over the good people.
It did show some very interesting and maybe some unpleasant things about human behavior. It seems like, every century, every decade that we go through, we're suffering the same kind of atrocities, and you need to understand why these things happen. You need to understand why people behave like this.
I'm going to India. Maybe you should go.
Well, a trip like that would be pretty penny.
Did not go over a liquor store.
What we will be doing here, for those of you that don't know, will be a behavioral experiment in which we will be simulating the conditions of life inside a state penitentiary. Some of the subjects will be deprived of their civil rights.
I can't help but think that this says something about us.
I think it says we need money.
So what do you think, Girl Scouts? Prisoners or guards?
I think we just got our answer.
If there is any violence, that red light will come on. The experiment will be immediately terminated. If any of you want to leave, now is your last chance.
Nobody's leaving here until their plates are clean.
You heard the man.
You gotta eat it.
Now it's clean. You don't start respecting the guards, you're gonna have a serious problem. Why don't you try being rational?
How is this for rational?
You hit me, and the experiment is over. You lock up any animal long enough, and the strong's gonna eat the weak. 77. He's a ringleader, so we have to.
You scare him. This place, it belongs to us. Do we have the proper respect for authority now? You are a prisoner, 77. It's your pride that's getting in the way. The red light is the only thing that we have.
I'm crazy. Open the gate. Why don't you stop this? Why?
The photographs were taken by the soldiers themselves. First aired on CBS 60 Minutes 2, they are disturbing and explicit. The Iraqi prisoners were hooded, stripped naked, forced into sexually explicit poses or human pyramids. And there are the American soldiers, male and female, smiling, pointing, humiliating the prisoners. The 6 reservists, 2 women and 4 men, are charged with maltreatment and indecent acts for ordering detainees to publicly masturbate, battery for shoving and stepping on detainees. 2 of the soldiers are charged with striking detainees with enough force to cause serious injury. Staff Sergeant Ivan Frederick is one of those charged. He is 38 years old with 20 years of military service. His lawyer says Frederick thought he was doing what interrogators wanted him to do.
These young people were being told by persons in positions of power to soften up these prisoners, to advance the American cause, and that's what they did.
The military says that does not excuse the soldiers' behavior.
We are absolutely appalled by what we saw.
In the meantime, America's reputation, already battered, has suffered even more. Arab TV labeled the acts atrocities. Headlines around the world screamed torture. The photographs were shot at the Abu Ghraib prison, where Saddam Hussein subjected prisoners to hideous torture.
These pictures are reprehensible, abhorrent, and unbelievable. I, for one, stood against Saddam Hussein because of acts like these.
you